Hey everyone, Tommy V from 81 Real Estate here. Have a amazing podcast episode with one of my friends, special guest Owen Johnston. He's the owner operator of Advanced PT and Wellness out in the greater San Diego, California area. I know it's more specific, but I've never been to California. Owen and I met 6 months ago? Well, now 8 months ago now, it was last fall. We're both in Dr. Brandon Smith's Discord and Inner Circle. And so that's how we connected. And we love being a part of that community. Shout out to Brandon for helping dudes like us meet up
I
and
got a
help
shirt on.
get each other better. Perfect. Exactly. Um, and so Owen actually got to meet Owen in person a couple weeks ago down here in Clearwater for Greg Todd's big live event. And so just so blessed by Owen. He's a girl dad as well. And just being a girl dad, being a PT, being a business owner, trying to be a good husband and leave a good impact in the community. So we've just connected over a lot. He's one of my good friends. And thanks for joining us, Owen. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You can plug your clinic and we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. It's my pleasure. And I'm super stoked to be here on the podcast and share my story about real estate, cash-based PT, all the above, and also maybe learn a few lessons from you because you're the expert when it comes to this stuff. So I guess a little bit about me gave me a really good introduction. Sorry, got some like cat hair or something. We'll go in the outtakes or not. Um, let's see here. So you are correct. Owner and operator of Advanced Physical Therapy and Wellness here in San Diego. It's in Sereno Valley, which is kind of like central San Diego, central coastal. And so one of the cool things is we can kind of hit a lot of areas in San Diego, and they just kind of come to us for like a little bit of a hub. So that's one cool thing about us, as well as let's see. I mean, how far should we go back? So I've been doing it for almost 2 years. And it all started when I was terminated from Kaiser. So when they were going through all their mandates with the masks, the vaxes, all the things. I'm not sure if we can say that on these platforms. Who knows? But my religious beliefs dictated that I could not follow through with all those things. And so I put in for an exemption, and they still terminated me. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna open up my own physical therapy practice. And it couldn't have been the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It was a blessing in disguise, so long as I was able to put in the work. And it took away a ceiling. Like I was just in this ceiling, in this mode, unmotivated, unengaged, and just kind of just coasting through life. And as soon as they broke the ceiling for me, I was just like, wow, there really is no limits to ascension. Like I thought I was going to stay with them for like 20, 30 years and retire and live on this fixed income and have like a million or two in the bank. And that was a dream that was sold to me by some other guy that I don't really look up to anymore, who did retire with Kaiser. But so I suppose where I was at then, I did own a single home. I own a home in Lompoc. It's on the Central Coast, of California. I worked for an outpatient clinic for about 2 years straight out of PT school. I graduated in 2015. I saved up enough money my first year. I rented and then saved up enough money for a down payment, bought my first house, moved into it, and then um, and that's when I started looking at my pay and going, ooh, I'm not really making too much money, making like 70, 80K a year or something. And then I was seeing like 30 plus patients a day. I was seeing average of 3 to 4 patients an hour, running around the chicken with my head cut off. And I got burnt out really fast. So a year into owning that home, then I was like, okay, I got to do something different. So I got into home health, got a 40% increase in pay. It was a good psychological break for me. I was able to, listen to some more audiobooks and music and chill and cruise and work with patients, seeing like 3 to 5 a day instead of 32 a day. And it was good. But I still wanted more. I wanted more travel. Um, Pay is always good too. Con Ed, whatever. The home health company I was working for was great. They gave me great pay, but I was looking for something a little bit more. I could never really take a vacation at either of those jobs. I was the only PT at the home health company. And then at the company before that, the outpatient clinic, I was one of two therapists. And my boss was seeing a full caseload too. So I couldn't get any time off. So I moved down to San Diego to work for Kaiser. And I worked for them for about 4.5 years. In the beginning, it was tough because I was in the middle of a home remodel at my house in Lompoc. Like my buddy told me, he said, "Hey, Owen, like we got this new like same day total joint program going on. They're hiring like 10 PTs right now with Kaiser. This is never going to happen again. You better apply right now." And I was like, well, now's not a really good time because I'm like midway through the home remodel. Like my flooring is still like gone. I'm installing flooring slowly and tile and stuff like that and painting. And I was just like, I can make it happen though. And he was like, I'd suggest you do that. So I said, okay. So I just applied for it, took all these trips down there for the interviews and stuff, and then got the job. And then I was working, 40 hours a week. And I would drive up as soon as my shift ended at like 5 o'clock p.m. I would drive back up to Lompoc, took like 5, 6 hours. I would immediately go to sleep. I'd wake up and then I'd work on the house for a day and a half. Sometimes I'd even work for my old boss for a half a day just to make some extra money. And then I'd work a day on the house. And then I would wake up at 3:30 a.m., 3:30, 4 a.m. And then I would drive straight down just to start my shift at home health. And I would do that 2 to 3 weekends every month for a number of months, almost half of a year until I finished the house. And then I turned it over to a property management company. And now it's just cruising, it's doing its thing. So that's kind of a long / short version, not sure, of my story.
Yeah. So what I hear is that you bought the house and then you had a work change to where you're relocating for work, but you still wanted the house, but you couldn't sell the house because you were halfway through the remodel. You couldn't really make it a rental yet because you're halfway through the remodel. So you basically had to buy time of you driving back and you trading your time for house money, basically. You're trading your time doing the work yourself. And then it took, you said 6 months to get it finally done.
6 months of all that commuting and stuff like that. I mean, I think I'd been working on it for 6 more months before that, 6 months to a year before that too, as well. Um, Luckily, I had a good friend who does like construction work and stuff, and he did roofing too. So he did most of the roof. He helped me out like with cutting a hole in the wall, and like we had to get an architecture out there with these load bearing things. But I did as much as I possibly could on my own, thinking I was like gonna like save money, but I was really trading my time, which I think when I was working in outpatient, I think the construction companies were making a lot more an hour than I was. So I mean, technically, I was saving money, but I would say at nowadays that would probably be incorrect. So nowadays, I would probably just hire someone. They do it a lot faster too. Like when my friend got to work, he would just be like all over the place, almost like me, an outpatient. It's like I knew what I'm doing. I knew how to evaluate and treat real fast. Like that was him, but in his profession. So he does that every day, and it's amazing how fast those guys can do it when they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to bring Owen on. So each podcast has kind of had a theme or a particular aspect of real estate that is important to know. And it's easiest to illustrate these through storytelling instead of me just like explaining concepts. So I don't know, I just love hearing all these different stories because they highlight so many things that maybe a newer investor. I mean, if no one told you, then like you don't know. And a famous quote. I heard it on Chris Williamson's podcast, but he said that poor people trade their time to save money, while rich people trade their money to save time. And as I know you and I, as we've kind of gone through this inner circle of mentoring and coaching with the people ahead of us, like we've increasingly learned the value of our time and how we have to employ leverage to be able to use our time wisely to get the most out of it. And so when it comes to construction stuff, if you say, okay, there's 80 hours of construction that need to take place, or I don't know, 120 hours of construction need to take place. Well, if you can only knock it out 2, 3 hours at a time, your time horizon is going to be way spread out. Whereas a company working, sunrise to sunset, they can knock out that 20 hours a lot quicker because that's just all they're doing. And they're more proficient at it. They have the right tools and they're going to get discounted materials because they buy them in bulk and know where the best prices are anyways. And so, like, just for context, the two most recent flips that we did were, the one was a complete remodel all the way down to the concrete and studs, all permits, including windows, roof, kitchen, plumbing, electric. It was a full rehab. And we got it done in 7 weeks. It was a 7 week, $70,000 rehab. And then house number two was a full rehab, but it was no permit. So the roof was good. The windows were good. We didn't have to pull any permits. That was 5 weeks, $55,000 rehab. And so by us turning those projects so quickly, we were able to start getting income off of the properties. We were much faster able to get to that cash flow. And the quicker that you can put the property from vacant to occupied, that's when you can start gaining those discounts. Those, like, tax, everyone talks about tax benefits of real estate. Well, you can't do that while it's empty. You can only start that once you get a person in there. And so when you start to look at, like, you're getting less cash flow, you're getting no tax benefit, and you're having to manage the project, then, like, speed is the key.
This is true.
And in your specific case, not even to mention all the commuting you were doing. So you weren't just doing the work, all of the driving back and forth and the time you had to spend to go on YouTube Academy, how to install a backsplash.
Hey, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed actually making my own backsplash. It was kind of cool,
Oh,
but there was some frustration too as well. Like pretty much every project that I did, I had to learn something new, which when you're working a lot and stuff and like trying to build yourself up and in all ways of life, it's like you run out of bandwidth. And I did anyways, and decision fatigue and stuff. And I remember like just trying to do some caulking on that backsplash, and like I just kept messing it up, and it was just so messy. And I was like cussing because I was like, I was crunching time, like, and trying to beat a clock, and like it was taking way longer than I thought it was. But when I was done, I was like, I'm proud I did that, but someone else could have done that.
yeah, and like when you're like in the thick of it, you don't know because no one told you, like, hey, like, get it done quick and get it rented quick, and like that's the key, and you make back those gains over time. But I mean, yeah, you do the
Yeah,
best you can. And it
and that
also depends
reminds me.
on the and it also depends on the, like, scale of the project. Like, if it's okay, just like retiling one shower or like changing out a few baseboards or painting some walls, that's different than, taking down drywall and redoing roofs and stuff like that.
Yeah, but so it reminds me too. So like you said, it cost me a lot of money doing that because when I first moved down to San Diego, I was actually thinking about buying like a Toyota 4Runner or like an RV or something. I'm a big climber, so like there was a climbing gym that I did work out at every night. I showered there. And I was like, dude, I could just, have my 4Runner or my RV in the parking lot, and the climbing community is real cool like that. And I have my other car that I can do my home health in. But I did end up finding a place where I rented a living room because I was trying to save money, right? I rented a living room from a guy that owned a 1 bedroom condo here in San Diego, and it was kind of in the ghetto. I had to find like these parking spots. I think it was like $300-400 a month. Not bad, because it's like, well, I didn't have my house rented out. So I think I had an ex-girlfriend. She was a girlfriend at the time living in the home. And then we were able to rent out one of the rooms to somebody. And then we were able to rent out another one of the rooms, but then there was a headache with that. Like one of the non-binary people, I think she was considered, tried to kill herself, and like it was crazy. I had to get them out, and then I was back down to the girlfriend and the other roommate, sort of a thing. And then the girlfriend thing wasn't working out, so then I had to find a way to get them out. And
Oh,
I
jeez.
was I was also losing money too, like just having just like those two rooms rented out technically. I think I think I was bringing in like 1,200 a month, but that did not include my water bill was like 250, and the electric bill was like another $50 to $100. So it was like really, I was like $800 in my pocket, but still my mortgage was like $2,200 or something like that, $2,200. So I'm like net negative 1,800 or something. And then when I was able to actually get it all ready to go, got them out, property manager in, they're charging like 25 to 2,700 for rent. Even after the rental fee and all that stuff, I'm still making a net positive of like $250 or $350. Um, but
Exactly.
and I could have done that sooner. I could have done that in that 6 months. If I really did the math, really, it's like I wasted a lot of time and I wasted a lot of money. If I could have,
Yeah.
like
So,
you
so do you
said,
think you were spending $800 instead of being up 250, you were not getting that 250 and you were down 800. So you're basically losing $1,000 a month. Plus you were having to pay to rent the room down south because you were having to go back and forth. You couldn't just find somewhere to live. Yeah. So you're basically burning $1,000 a month there.
I think it was more than that. I think it was like 2,000, 2,500 or something.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah, that hurts. Yeah, but
yeah,
so kind of the takeaway from that from kind of a beginner investor is like time. Time is your biggest asset and your biggest adversary, especially when it comes to real estate. So the quicker that you can acquire, get rent ready, and get a person in there making positive cash flow, like that's the key. Even if you spend more money at the beginning, getting that cash flow, it just makes all the numbers work a lot better. And be able to, and it's a little bit of kind of a giving your mind a cookie because when you're stroking those checks and losing money every month, it's very demoralizing.
so you start seeing
So
the
kind of,
return.
huh?
So you start seeing the return.
Exactly, exactly. So you bought that house in what year? So 2017, you said?
Yeah, 2017.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so it's gone up a pretty good bit in value since 2017. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's almost worth like two times the amount that I paid for it. But since it has a positive cash flow, even though it's not very much, I'm like, why would I sell it at this point? And I don't have the bandwidth to even think about selling it right now either. So I'm just letting it cruise, coast. Sure, when the water heater breaks, it's like that positive cash flow, which is all going into a savings account. Yeah, I just use it to pay for it. Some of the windows need replacing, and they did. I checked them out with my construction friend, and they did. So that came out of the savings account. So I mean, really, it kind of just breaks even. But basically, I just have people paying my mortgage and paying for all that equity, and I'm not paying a thing or even thinking about it. I go, like I said, I went and checked on the windows because that was going to be like $3,000, and I was in the neighborhood anyways. Um, so it's great.
Yeah, that's the key. Is it cash flow? Cash flow is just one of the ways to make money. So your monthly cash flow over your mortgage and expenses, that's just one of the ways to make money. And then you alluded it to there. The tenant is paying down your mortgage. So that's your debt pay down. So every single month, your mortgage is getting smaller and smaller so that when you do sell it, your profit is bigger and bigger because you owe less and less money. And then the second thing is it goes up in value over time. Fancy term for that is appreciation. Historic, across the country, historic appreciation, they were between 3 and 5%. I don't know what it is out where your house is, but it's probably in the 3-4% range. Probably got a
Yeah.
big bump, during all this hyperinflated economy and stuff. But yeah, so even if you are breaking even or only making 100, 200, $300 per month, you're still getting all of those behind the scenes action making you money.
Yeah. And also the cost depreciation that I had for taxes and stuff like that. So actually I got a huge chunks of money like in tax returns and stuff back when I was a W-2 employee. I'm not quite sure how it works now that I'm a business owner, but I think they're still doing the cost of depreciation stuff. But my wife takes care of the finances and the taxes these days. So we'd have to ask her, but I think we're still like doing well because of that. And as we acquire
Yes.
more properties and stuff, then Robert Kiyosaki method, turn in three greenhouses for a red hotel or apartment complex or something. When the market's high, we'll do that, and the market's low, we'll acquire more houses and properties. So
Exactly. As the pendulum swings, you just be flexible and you roll with it.
mm,
I was going to share my screen here just to illustrate what you're talking about taxes a little bit. So let me pull this up. All right. So the way that taxes work for a marginal tax calculator is that this is federal income tax. It's not state tax. Not in California. You guys love your state tax. But this is just federal tax rate. This is called a marginal tax rate calculator. And this kind of puts in your income and kind of gives you a ballpark of what your actual amount of taxes would be. So the way that a marginal tax rate works is the first, if we're married filing jointly, Owen and I are both married filing jointly, the first 0 to 22,000 of your earned income is going to be 10%, 22 to 89,000, 12%, 89 to 190, 22%. And so the average of those all three together becomes your marginal tax rate or your effective tax rate. So in this example, if we made 100,000 and we married filing jointly, our taxes are $8,200. That means that our effective tax rate is 8.24%. So even though this 100,000 falls inside of this 22% bracket, we're not paying 22% tax on all the 100,000. We're just paying on 22% above the 89 mark. So when you're married, your standard deduction is 27,000. So this 100,000 minus 27,000, that's 73,000. So really, 0 of your dollars are in this 22%. They're all in the 10 and 12% bucket. So what happens is people think, okay, so if my taxes are 8,000 and 100,000, then my income goes up to 200,000 because now I'm a cash-based PT and I'm making a lot of money, just crushing it. So if I double my income to 200,000, you would think, okay, my taxes would double 8,000 to 16,000. But that's not the case because now a bunch more of your income is in these higher buckets here, this 22 and 24. So your taxes go from 8,000 to 28,000, going from 100,000 to 200,000, which is like pretty wild to think about. It's way worse if you're single. So if you put single here, your taxes are 14,000. You go up to 200,000 and your taxes are $38,000 of real dollars. That's not like adjusted income. That's you got to over the year or at the end of the year, you got to stroke a check for 38K to Uncle Sam. So the way the largest way, the easiest way to kind of offset it is by using, everyone says like expenses on your business, deductions, all those kind of things. Take advantage of those is, of course, step number one. But number two is using depreciation. All depreciation is that the IRS knows that a house is going to have wear and tear over time. So over the span of 27 and a half years, you're probably going to have to end up replacing everything on the house. The roof, the windows, the floors, the doors, the appliances, they know that. And so they allow you to take a deduction over that whole time so that when you put money back in, it kind of balances out. So you take the value of the asset, you divide it by 27.5, and it's just a straight line, and it gives you a set amount. So in this example, $250,000 house, you can take off $9,000 of depreciation every single year. So that is not $9,000 of tax savings. That's $9,000 off of your income. So if you were to, so we'll go back to our married filing jointly. We're sitting at 100K. So if we took $9,000 off of our expenses, okay, well now we're at 91. So we saved about $1,000 real dollars on our taxes. We're all the way up here at 200,000 and we take off 9,000. Was it 28 to 26? We'll say $2,000, 2,000 real dollars off of our taxes just using 1 year. But the pro tip, the pro strategy is that you can front load up to 7 years of this depreciation. And that's what people do with like a cost segregation study or, they call it front loading depreciation. You can take up to 7 years of depreciation in year one. So in this example, 9 times 7, what is that? 63, 9 times 7 is 63,000. So you can knock $63,000 off of your income. So in this example, if we're sitting at $100,000, we were paying 8, we knock off 63, so now we're down to 37. Whoop. I only owe $900 in taxes. So I just saved, $7,000 in taxes by front loading all that depreciation. If we go the other way, we're way up here at 200,000. Okay, we owe 28. We knock off 63. So we go down to 137. It's not going to let me. We'll call it 140. But we go down to 15. So we save $13,000 in taxes in year one. And that's just based off of depreciation. You can depreciate some of the other items in the home. But that's a very, very, very brief summary of marginal taxes, depreciation, and how you can front load it to like save a shit ton of money by buying a property.
Yeah, and that's how we did it too. Like a couple of years ago, my last year in Kaiser is like I was going to owe money in taxes, even though money was taken out of my check every single month, like almost like more than a quarter. And then I was still going to owe thousands and thousands of dollars at the end of the year. And then did the cost appreciation study, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up getting like a check for like $7,000-8,000 back instead of paying like $7,000-8,000 more, sort of thing. So it was great. It was great. And then that was one of the things that really helped when I was terminated from Kaiser. I had money in the bank from that cost appreciation study and the AMC stock. So when they were like, you either get jabbed or you're out of here, and I was just like, yeah, go for it, dude. I got like almost a year full of expenses saved in my savings account thanks to the cost appreciation study and thanks to the stocks. So I was just like, bring it, let's go. And confident, rather than living paycheck to paycheck like I had been doing for a long time. And most people do. And that's the reason why when they're confronted with, well, you're going to go on unpaid admin leave for 30 days. Some people can't do that. Most people can't in America. So then they were essentially coerced into doing something they didn't want to do. Now they're all bitter, angry, and resentful. And I know some of them too.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So kind of having other assets, having other streams of income, having other opportunities that you can pull cash from is huge to give you flexibility in any, career. I mean, we're biased towards physical therapy, but it applies to all healthcare careers. Like if you don't have that flexibility and you haven't done that pre-work, then when the Uncle Sam or Medicare or your boss decides something, you're kind of stuck in a corner. They have all the leverage over you. You don't have the power to fight back. And so it sucks.
Hey, they think that slavery ended. No, man, they've created a bunch of indentured servants that have
Yep.
$500,000, $250,000 in student loans. And then they have a job that's contingent with the loans. Some people are looking for loan forgiveness, but also too, some people are paying a house in loans a month. And then they're at a job that they can only have with this license that they got from school. So if they're threatened with losing the job or losing a license or not being employable, then they can't even pay their loans. Then they're basically a slave. So this is all about not just time freedom, but also freedom.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I always say, like, if they forgave all the healthcare workers all their student loans, well, then how many people would leave healthcare?
Right.
And so
Right.
that's a high motivation for the government to not forgive our student loans, unfortunately, which is
No matter how much they say they're going to do it.
No, they're not gonna. You can't, and that's what we're trying to teach people too: is how you can use real estate to attack your student loans to become free, to be untethered from those mandates. So, if you want to start your own practice, or you want to go do work for a for-profit, or you want to go do home health, and you don't have these loans, like just like being your ball and chain on you, so that's a huge component. If you can target those student loans with real estate over time, make your own plan. Don't rely on the government to figure it out for you. Make your own plan and then go attack them yourself. I love that.
Yeah, totally.
So we talked about your story. We talked about kind of getting the house. What would you do different? And then we touched on kind of those tax savings. Oh, one last thing about those tax savings. So when you front load that depreciation, it doesn't matter if you put 3.5% down, 5% down, 10% down, 40% down. Even if you put down a small amount, you can still take all those tax benefits in year one. Just pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why it really helped with us, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. Any closing thoughts, Owen?
Well, we could also talk a little bit about too, like plans for the future and stuff, because it's like
Oh,
being a business owner and stuff like that too now, like cash-based PT business owner. And we'll give some shout outs too. You already touched upon Dr. Brandon Smith, but also too, I got to touch upon Dr. Aaron LeBauer. If it weren't for him, I would not be doing nearly as well as we are right now. I mean, I think we saved over 5 years being in his platinum mastermind. It took him 5 years to hire his first employee. It took us 6 months. And also too, we joined Greg Todd's inner circle after that, and that's because everyone in that seems to have a team. We also have grown a team now. Now we have 4 doctors of physical therapy working with us, a virtual assistant, and we're also looking for a rock star administrative assistant. But so now we're looking at like strategies on what we do in the future. When we were looking at, my wife and I, Jen, were looking at buying a house about 2 years ago here in San Diego, but the market was just too crazy. When we were looking at if we were to purchase a home, then the stuff that was in our price range that we were looking at had stuff wrong with it. It had a lot of things wrong with it. The plumbing, the roof, the AC, all those things were like going out. And the house that we decided to live in, which we decided to rent, because it's like, okay, well, we couldn't figure out the best way to, it's like, even if we did live in it, it's like, well, the house that we live in right now, if we just paid the mortgage, paid the bare minimum, we'd be paying 1,500 extra a month on top of the mortgage that was in our price range, which we didn't have that kind of money. So we decided, we're like, okay, cool, we're just going to rent. So then the landlord can fix any problems for the next couple of years. And then when the market's right, then we'll be saving up some money and be ready to attack when we're able to actually create some benefits. And you may be able to touch upon some other benefits that we're unaware of. I mean, it is kind of crazy since we didn't buy though, and like the house we live in now, after 2 years, they increased the rent $400 each year. So now we're up $800. So it's like, well, now we're halfway towards that 1,500.
back here with Owen. We were just about to talk about kind of our future and kind of how Owen, the real estate market was too crazy out in his market. So they opted to do a rental. And then me and my wife, we just came off travel. Now we're down here in Tampa, Florida, and the housing market is also crazy here. And so we were just talking about a week and a half ago, we made the decision to pursue a rental instead of pursuing home ownership down here in Tampa at this time. So yeah, so go and kind of recap what you were saying there. So you were saying that you're going to be spending an extra 1,500 per month on a mortgage. So you guys went for rental.
Yeah, so we went for a rental. Yeah, if we were to have bought this house, then it would have cost us an extra 1,500 on top of like the rent that we were already paying. So I think where we started renting it at was like 2,900, close to 3,000, but the mortgage would have been like 4,500 or 4,600. But now we're up at like 3,700, 3,800 because they've increased the rent every year 10% because the rental market skyrocketed too with, I don't know, whatever politics are going on, but there's a lot of weird stuff going on. But so they're able to do that because it's like if we were to move, then we'd be paying even more in rent. So we're like, yeah, we're just going to hunker down right here. But we were hoping this was going to be our last year renting here at this space, but our team wasn't quite ready because we want to move a little bit closer up north to where our parents are, and so they can be in baby Shay's life. And team wasn't ready, so we're like, we're going to stay one more year, and we'll see what happens. But
Well, and
yeah,
also,
essentially,
isn't your house super close to the clinic? I think you
yeah,
told me.
2 blocks. So, and that was the reason why we put the clinic there too, because it was so close. So there's really no point in moving. And
God, so you
yeah,
guys
and
are
also
saving a ton on, gas driving or your public transportation. You guys are saving a ton and
and time.
time, huge time saver. So with Owen and I both being, business owners, dads, time is a premium. And so any way to shave off commute time or, time doing yard work or house repairs, that has a savings and a value attached to it.
Mm-hmm. Like if I could tell you quick savings, it was like when I opened up the clinic, it was over half an hour away in Point Loma in a personal training studio. And So it was a half hour there, half hour home, not including traffic. Sometimes it was worse. So that's over an hour. And then I would have to set up and tear down every day because they wanted me to like clean up and stuff, and I couldn't leave things out there. So that's like fold up my treatment tables and, fold up my equipment and stuff. And so I was losing almost 2 hours of time every single day working there. And if I could see another patient, and we were able to raise our rates to like basically 250 a session, 225, 250. And if you extrapolate that, if I could see 2 additional patients a day, given that the clinic's only 2 blocks away now, it's like and then I was paying $800 a month rent there. It was like, with the rent, with the time wasted of just the commute, I was losing like between $4,000 and $5,000. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I can get this clinic down the street for $3,000 a month. That's still a savings of almost $2,000, and it's 1,600 square feet. So I can have all the equipment that I want, and I can hire, scale, and all those things. So
Exactly. Yeah. So when we moved out of the camper, moved down here, I accepted a job, and we didn't have how I accepted the job before we found housing, and we couldn't find housing. And luckily, a family friend hooked us up with a furnished condo because they're snowbirds. So we're here temporarily. But my job was a solid hour there and a solid hour home. And I remember on the Friday of my second week, there was an accident, and I was in the car coming home for an hour and 40 minutes. And that night,
right.
I typed up my 2 week resignation letter because I said, I can't turn my, making $44 an hour. I was like, I can't turn my 40-hour work week into a 54 hour of me being gone. That's 20% of my work week would be driving, not getting paid, spending gas, putting miles on the car. And so, yeah, I resigned. That's why I'm in home health now. I get more pay. My first patient is always like 10 minutes from the house. So and you get paid mileage. So home health is a perfect fit for this season that we're in.
Yep. Yep.
And I don't
Totally.
have to do no lawn work, no repairs on anything. And anyways, but yeah, so we were talking through, because I'm very pro buying real estate, obviously I'm biased. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we buy something down here? And the price points down here. I mean, a $300,000 house, teeny tiny, in kind of a real sketchy neighborhood, not good for having two baby girls. And so we were looking at, okay, we're gonna have to put, $15,000 to $18,000 down, even with just like a 3.5% loan, and then our payment's still gonna be over $2,000 a month. So it's like, okay, I got to put up, 15,000 on the front end plus $2,000 a month. So just in the first year, we'd be looking at well over $35,000 just between the down payment and the payments. It's like, oh my goodness. And so we made a decision. There's tons of apartments around here. We can get a decent 2-bedroom for $1,800 with like a $400 security deposit. So it's like, okay, well, that's way less money like over the next 12 months, even though we're not getting any, the appreciation, we're not getting any of the benefits of it, but we're saving so much on a per month basis to let things stabilize a little bit, especially with the baby on the way. And so, like you said, time is a premium. And so being able to figure out, okay, if maybe it's not the best thing right now, but what are the time benefits?
Yeah. And also too, like, it's like, if you pay the bare minimum of your mortgage, really you're only paying the interest for the first like 7 to 10 years. So it's like, if I were to be owning the house that I currently live in right now, then it's like I'd be throwing money away anyways. So I'd be throwing money away renting, and I'd be throwing away money owning if I was going to pay just the bare minimum sort of thing. And I wouldn't be necessarily cashing in on some of the cost depreciation, because I'm not really paying too much in taxes right now, because we've been building exponentially our business. So we've had a lot of expenses. So I think last year, like, we didn't really pay any taxes, because it's like we had to move into a brick and mortar clinic, had to pay for all the business coaching, had to start paying employees too as well. So it's like we wouldn't really even be able to cash in on the cost depreciation and all those other benefits this year anyways. And probably next year either, but the year following, we probably will be kind of in a better position to cash in on those types of benefits. So I feel like we've been throwing money away, and also to probably wasting time too as well if we did that. So that's why we strategized it this way, and then we'll see how things go in the future. You may be able to touch
Exactly.
upon that, and I'll talk about one of the biggest objections I feel like for people going into business on their own after you touch upon that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of seasons, it's seasons of life too. Like everybody thinks like, okay, my work-life balance, my retirement, my housing, I got to have all of these things all maxed out. And then I think you told me about the book and I can't remember what it is, how you talked about your three buckets or your four quarters that they all need to be filled for you to be like at your maximum. What was it? It was like mental, spiritual,
Yeah,
family.
Sean Whalen, it was
Yeah,
make
what were you
shit
telling me
happen.
about?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I do five. He did four. He
five.
called this core four. But yeah, basically maximizing for me, it would be mind, body, spirit, relationship slash emotional health, and then also to financial health. So it's like everything maximized. Otherwise, you're starting the day off with like a percentage missing. So it's like if your relationships aren't doing well, then it's like then you're missing like 20 to 25%, starting the day with 75% of your gas. If you're not financially doing well, you're stressing about that. That's going to decrease the percentage too. If you're not doing well mentally, spiritually, it's going to be starting off even lower. And then because you're starting off the day with a quarter tank of gas every single day, how can you be a high performer and then go far and go the distance? You can't. And then because of all that stuff, all of your relationships start suffering. You start suffering, or I would start suffering, and then probably start falling short into some vices, which would make everything even worse. Let's pour gasoline on a fire. So that's how things can spiral out of control if those things aren't maximized. So it's like then I just systematize ways to maximize each things, like buying flowers for my wife once a week to make her feel special, as well as even writing cute little notes and then like hiding them in her shoes and she finding them. Got that from the book too as well. And then also too making sure that I'm maximizing my spiritual health, going to our life groups and church, um, physical health, financial health, going to conferences like SSHC Live, Greg Todd's event with you, and a number of other self-development things, and reading tons of books, consuming tons of content, programming myself every single day, and then saving money where we can because there's free stuff available too. Like you don't necessarily have to buy flowers; you can just do the note thing. Um, so, yeah,
Yeah, and so exactly. So some people get really really hyper focused on like all finance, business, retirement things, and it's like okay, well you have these other things that you can max those out, you know, first or even concurrently. That kind of everything can be rising together. You don't necessarily like so if we were to go forward with buying a house, then my other buckets there would all take a hit. And so, like, sitting down as a family and deciding, okay, that's not going to be the best fit right now because we're going to be doing a trade off and it's going to be like the price is too high. And so, being, you know, rhythmically balanced between all those different things is really important to make sure before, you know, getting a real estate property or buying a house or any of those big decisions that maybe there's some other things that need to be aligned first before kind of making that move.
mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Exactly.
that was a tangent, but because what I'm gonna do is obviously I'm gonna have like a nuts and bolts, how to invest in real estate, how to analyze a property, how to set up as a rental. Like we're gonna do nuts and bolts things, but we're also like as I was thinking about it further, really the mindset, how do I discuss this with my partner, how do we set financial goals with my spouse, how do I figure out what is my long-term play here, like am I trying to start a business, am I trying to retire early, am I trying to have cash flow so I'm not strapped paycheck to paycheck, like, and so that's what I'm going to be focusing on first is kind of a mindset piece. And I think that and really from that conversation with you is what really kickstarted the gears turning with kind of that, okay, you can't be out of balance and over leveraged just in one thing. You got to make sure it lines up with everything else because you're a whole person.
Mm-hmm.
um,
And that's
but
where I
yeah,
feel like a lot of people fail, men in particular. Oftentimes, I hear and read and see people, men that feel like that their only benefit to their family is the moneymaker, the breadwinner, which is more of an old school thought, but also too, it's like they're over leveraging whatever they can possibly do for that financial stuff, and that's maximized. But really, in the grand scheme of things, that's only really like 15 to 25% of the bucket. So if they're pouring all of their time and effort into that, then everything else is failing. Their relationship is going to fail. That's one of the reasons why the divorce rate is so high. And then the suicide rate is highest in men. Excluding maybe transgender people, I think that may be around the same. But because all those things fall apart, that's why Sean Whalen ended up in a hotel with a gun in his mouth and was about to kill himself before he built himself back up better, establishing the core four, and then blowing up with like the Lions Not Sheep brand, among other things.
Man, that's so cool. I love that. So yeah, so you say you were going to circle back to number one objection for starting your own business.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the number one objection for starting their own business other than themselves, and this could be because of themselves, but really the mindset is they're like, well, I want to buy a house. And if one owns a business, then they no longer have like the W-2 taxes showing the amount of revenue, the amount of income that they're making. So then therefore they're like, well, I want to buy a house, so I'm going to continue to grind it out at this job that I hate where I'm unfulfilled so that I can get this house. And the house is probably going to be more money than their one-bedroom apartment that they're working in. So really they're going to put themselves in a bigger hole by overextending their money and their time into a larger, investment or whatever you want to call it. And then they're going to be even more scared to go out into business on their own too, because it's like, well, then, there's not necessarily that guaranteed income. So like for us, like we can't, if we wanted to purchase a home right now, we can't. Like I said, we hardly paid any taxes last year. And so therefore we don't have like enough income demonstrating the amount to where a bank would necessarily give us a loan. Now we probably could, it'd be a higher
It's all
interest
that
loan.
paper. It's how much you make on paper. It's so dumb. It's not real money.
Yeah.
It's paper money.
Yeah. Also, the other one too, they're like, I want to go on a vacation. It's like, here, dude, why don't you do this? Why don't you go into business on your own and then just savor the immediate gratification? Like just hold off on, buying a home or taking extravagant vacations for like a year or two. And then once you do that, then it's going to be so much easier. Like I have a friend that uses strategy, their financial advisor. Basically, he's a gym owner, he's the man, Cali for Fitness, Coach Tato. I think it was something like they basically were advised to not even claim any expenses on their taxes for 1 year, like save everything, all the cash, all the checks, everything, and then show their revenue, their income, and pay all the taxes on it, which was huge, which was a hit. But then they were able to go get the loan, purchase the house, and then they were able to do an addendum and then put all their expenses on there and actually get all that money back. So that's a strategy
Yes.
that one can do.
Yes. Exactly. You could always go back and redo your taxes after the bank gives you the loan. That's a huge thing that I didn't even think about. That's huge. I love that. And the other thing is if you are married, you can file separately. This is more applicable to like student loans, but you can fill out your taxes married filing separately to get the lower tax payment, but then you can amend your taxes married filing jointly to get all your refund money back. That's another, yeah. So that's man, I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it's just like, and like I said too, I know that we can get a higher interest loan through some companies that basically they look at my credit score and it's above 800, and then they would essentially, that company would look at our revenue that's coming in, regardless of the expenses. They would basically be like, okay, these two people seem to make everything happen, and they have decades of always paying everything on time. And this is the amount of revenue that's actually coming into their business, regardless of expenses. They know that essentially we're going to pay. It's not going to not get paid because of our track record. So they would give us a higher interest loan. So if we really wanted to buy a house, we could do it immediately, and then we could do that strategy of showing all of our revenue, paying the taxes, addending it, and then essentially refinancing maybe with a better interest loan too as well. So it's like really there's ways around it, but I would say I'm going to bias towards betting on yourself and going out into business on your own. And instead of making $40 an hour, like you were talking about, make 225 to 250 an hour or even more an hour. And then instead of paying taxes, pay expenses. Like choose where you get to put that money instead of you don't have any choice where your taxes go to. The government dictates that as much as you think your vote counts. Um, being able to choose, being like, okay, cool. Well, instead of paying taxes, I'm going to go to business conferences. I'm going to go to self-development. I'm going to go to men's retreats. I'm going to pay a business coach, and I'm going to develop myself and then continue to bet on myself, which is the company that I started and opened, and then funnel all that money back in instead of just wasting all my money on all these like taxes that I don't even have. I can't even dictate what they do with that.
God, I love that tagline. I haven't heard someone put that tagline before. Don't pay taxes, pay expenses.
Yeah, because you get
I
to
haven't, I
choose.
haven't, I haven't heard that tagline before, but it's super applicable to real estate. Your expenses of windows, doors, roofing, property manager, lawn care, like you choose those instead of just sending your money off. I like that.
Yeah, and I need to put our house into an LLC. We just haven't had the bandwidth to figure all that stuff out for, demonstrating whatever, but taxes are doing okay, so we're not sweating on it too much, creating a
Yeah,
business
I
out of
mean,
it yet.
honestly, no. Honestly, if you have so the primary reason to move a home into an LLC is for like legal protection, but if your home has a mortgage on it, the bank, if you have a mortgage with Bank of America has a stake in your home. So if anybody ever tried to make a lawsuit against you, the Bank of America lawyers would come out to help protect you and the house because they have an interest in the house. Um, so in most cases, having it in your personal name is like totally fine. And especially if you just have one. If you just have one, then it's kind of it's a lot of extra work that the upside doesn't necessarily you don't get a whole lot of upside if you just have one.
Makes sense. And we we we
Because you
we 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 pay for high interest or high insurance rates too. So like our car insurance is like up to $1 million instead of the minimum that most people do, like 60K or something like that. Like if you injure
yeah,
someone
that's
and then they're,
terrifying.
they're hitting you and
Yeah,
stuff, you got to pull
yeah,
a mortgage out or, a HELOC or something out to pay someone's medical expenses.
yeah, that's
Like, yeah.
crazy.
And it's not even very much money. It's like 30 extra bucks a month. So just having that
Yeah,
coverage and then as well as like malpractice coverage that are high too as well. But
yep,
no one's going to sue us because we take care of our people and everybody
exactly.
loves us.
No one sues someone they like. One
Exactly.
of my professors
Exactly.
in school said that. They said no one's gonna sue someone they like. You treat someone well, you do right by them, you listen to them. No one's gonna sue you. It's always the jerks that get sued. Cool.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, this has been extremely educational. You're getting my gears turning for more content, so I love that. It's super helpful.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah.
All
Always
right.
happy to help share, spread the love, share like the cash-based PT vision. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I guess one last thing. Basically, I'm on a
Yeah.
mission. I was super tired, burnt out, all those things basically, but I'm on a mission to make sure to give every outpatient physical therapist the opportunity to make home health money with a home health caseload in outpatient. And the only way we're going to do that is cash-based PT and then helping out cash-based PT business owners. So they need help with that. Have them reach out to me on Instagram or go to our website, advancedptwellness.com. And then also to click on the tab that says coaching. There's free information, free resources. We've already helped out a number of people like Joey, Evan, Jomar, and a couple other people like nationwide because I can't do this mission on my own. So I got to help out people like you too as well to help you build your business so that we can revolutionize healthcare so that people can get paid what they're worth as well as avoid burnout and then therefore reestablish family and then save America.
Exactly. That's your your life mission statement right there, man. I love it. Cool. Yeah, so I mean that's on the agenda for me next once we have the baby, things stabilize a little bit next year, then that's kind of the plan is to investigate how we can get cash-based PT going. Because there's a great need down here in Tampa, man. My goodness, there's a lot of people here. A lot of
Yes.
people. Cool. All right. Well, let's sign off. Thanks for coming and look forward to maybe doing this again sometime.